guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Ash.
And this is F1 Fanatics. So guys, we have just finished with our driver predictions of 2020 mini-series. We enjoyed filming that, and now we are on to our mid-season ratings. We are going to be given a rating for the team and the two drivers at that team, splitting it into the three parts just like we did on the 2020 predictions. So that means this is part one, and we are looking at Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull.
Lots of numbers, isn't there? So let's see how we get on with them this time. Okay, so first place we have to start. These guys, Mercedes, top of the Constructors' Championship, 1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship, and your rating for the team, Mike, is
9. They are further ahead in the Constructors than they were last year. Obviously they did take a lead into that summer break again last year, but they are on 428, I believe.
In that region.
It is in that.
Don't throw more numbers in.
I'll throw more numbers in. It is in the 400s, guys. It has been a very solid performance. They have won 10 out of 12 races, only losing those 2 to Max Verstappen, 2 for Valtteri Bottas, and an amazing 8 race wins for Lewis Hamilton. I just think they've been pretty damn good, and the only reason that they don't get a 10 out of 10 is because Hockenheim really was a race to forget.
Okay, and then my rating, I've been a little bit harsher. I've given them an 8. Now yes, they are further ahead this year than they were last. They started off the season with that run of 1-2s. They have won 10 of 12, but the 2 they haven't won, they were awful in, really. There's no other way to put it. Austria, they weren't ever really challenging because of cooling issues, and then at Hockenheim it was a disaster of a race. So for me, it's an 8 at the moment, just because of how far off they were in those 2 races compared to the other top teams at this moment in time. So 8, but definitely pushing towards that 9 and 10 if the season continues this way.
Fair enough. You know, it's good that we're disagreeing then, because those driver ratings, there was a lot of agree.
Yes.
I mean, driver
predictions. So, moving on to Lewis Hamilton, number 1 in the Drivers' Championship, and your rating for him?
9. He has been incredible. This has been his strongest start to an F1 season ever, guys. I just think Lewis gets better and better with age. He's relentless at the top, even with Max Verstappen's late push at the end. Showed in Hungary that he is still the best driver on the grid. He's won 8 out of 12 races, and yet the only reason, the same reason I gave them a knockdown, was that Hockenheim. He probably had his worst career race at Hockenheim, and so that's why it is a 9 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10.
Okay, and my rating, I've also given him a 9. Same reasons. 8 out of 12 races he's won. The only 2 races he hasn't finished in the top 2 are Hockenheim and Austria. It's worrying, is the best way to put it. It's worrying how good he is and how far ahead of everyone he has been performance-wise this season. The only person that's got close to him is Max Verstappen, and we said it before in our German Grand Prix review, the fact there is an inevitability that this season he will be winning his 6th Grand Prix. Even in a race like that where he did awfully and the team did as well, he extended his lead at the top of the championship after that.
Crazy, isn't it?
It is one of those where got to give him a 9. He's bordering on a 10. It is just that 2 races and that knocks him down that one. So moving on to his teammate in Valtteri Bottas.
Indeed, Valtteri Bottas. 7. I think he has been a lot better than 2018 Bottas. I think he's been far more consistent this year. But again, I think as time has gone on, it is establishing that I feel in a top team at least, Valtteri Bottas can be nothing more than a solid number 2 driver. I think challenging for a world title is just beyond his driving skills. And I feel like the races that he's done badly in this year were things out of his control in terms of, so Austria, but he did beat Lewis in Austria, didn't he? But that was causing problems outside the car. And I feel the pressure of Toto Wolff's words came on when obviously he said, you know, the 2 races before summer break would help to decide whether he would be in the seat for next season, and he kind of crumbled under that pressure. Hockenheim just kind of pushed too hard in the rain when he shouldn't do, spinning out at that turn 1, and then Hungary, he's unlucky. We spoke about it, that Leclerc incident wasn't necessarily his fault, but then what was within his grasp was he had a really good race package, but still wasn't able to kind of maximise the benefits of like a Max or a Lewis would in that situation.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement. A 7 for him as well. Valtteri 2.0, there was a lot said about in Australia about the fact that he looked a completely different driver. Bahrain did really well. Azerbaijan, fantastic defence, and it went downhill from there really. It was those first 3 races, and then it got into the pattern of Hamilton being the number 1 driver, Valtteri being number 2.
You started seeing him come out with more things in the press, didn't you, saying, no, exactly. I'm not a number 2 driver, but...
Yes, and it was once after Azerbaijan, his performances have dipped a little bit, and it's coincided with Hamilton sort of accelerating, to use a motoring term more than anything on that one. Hamilton's improved and Bottas has dipped off slightly, and he hasn't got as many points as he should have in the car.
No, that is true.
Alright, and we're now at Ferrari. This could be interesting.
6. And the reason why Ferrari gets 6 is quite simple. The car they've designed is a car that was only ever going to be good at certain circuits, which is really confusing for a top team to do, because a top team, you have to be able to build a car that's going to succeed at as many circuits as possible, and this car, quite frankly, isn't up to that. Plus you combine the strategy calls within race that were favouring Vettel in some situations early doors. Yes, Ferrari love a number 1 driver, but it just felt a bit stupid in situations, especially that early on in the season. And also, just their pit stops, everything around it, it just hasn't been great, guys.
And let's be honest, it was an obvious agreement there. A 6 for Ferrari. As you say, cars designed for specific tracks. The one thing that they're going to love is the next 2 words on everyone's lips, Spa, Monza. 2 tracks where they're going to have a chance. But we've said that at different tracks this season. We said it at Azerbaijan, said it at Bahrain. They didn't get the wins. Even on the tracks where their car is supposed to be faster, or even if we look at Hungary in sectors where their car's meant to be faster, they're not getting the benefit of it.
They're not seeing home their advantage.
No. And as you said, the driver, the radio team orders on the radio for drivers in favour of Vettel in circumstances where Leclerc was the faster driver. Strategy calls that haven't made any sense at times. It's a team that just isn't sure of where it's going at this moment in time.
Yeah, which is worrying for F1, because obviously they're a historic race.
So, their drivers, Sebastian Vettel, going for, what did you give him?
I gave him a 7, I believe. Rocky start to the season, and then obviously some stronger performances going on latter. Canada was a superb drive up until that mistake, and whatever you think of the penalty, stewards don't have to make a decision if Vettel doesn't make a mistake. So it is, you look at it and you go, Seb, what were you doing? But ever since Hockenheim, where he got from 20th to 2nd position, so these last 2 races, he just starts to seem a little bit more like the old Seb before. He just seems to return, his mojo's back, he seems back in the right mindset, focused on the driving again. Very good podium in Hockenheim, and very good podium at the Hungaroring as well.
And I agreed, a 7 as well. It wasn't the greatest start. There were mistakes which put together an awful 12 months for him in terms of personal performance, but he is getting performances from a car that he shouldn't really. So he has been in and around the podium for the majority of the season, and there are times where this car hasn't been worthy of a podium, so definitely deserves the 7 on that one.
Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
Oh, good old Charles.
You've given him that?
I've given him a 7 again. Oh, this is consistent. See, it's weird. So we're saying the drivers are outperforming the team at the moment, which just shows how solid a driver they've done. They've done nothing exceptional. But they've just both been fairly solid. I think I probably would have been veering early part of the season for an 8 with Charles Leclerc, but then he was just kind of showing his kind of inexperience. Obviously this is only his 2nd full season in F1, so he is doing a great job at Ferrari, but especially the last kind of few races, he's not been as comfortable on those tracks, and he's starting to make a few more mistakes. But when, like we were saying before, when they've got that advantage, they're not seeing it home. And stuff like Azerbaijan, he looked all set for pole and then absolutely binned his car in the castle track pushing when he didn't really need to, because his time was good enough to get him through to the next qualifying session anyway.
And I've gone a little bit lower. I think a 6 for Charles Leclerc, and that's mainly down to the fact that there was so much promise and talk of him being the next big world champion in Formula 1. He got the Ferrari drive based on that, but he came into the team, and I feel in Australia in particular, and then also China to some extent, there was almost an acceptance that he was a number 2 driver. He was quite quick to just accept the team orders. The only time he's gone against them was Bahrain, and he was so much quicker, he had to. But he accepted quite quickly that that was the way the team was going to be working. So I feel
that is that nice guy Leclerc that's almost kind of been
Exactly.
beaten out of him a bit since that Verstappen battle at Austria.
Yeah, and this could be higher because he should have at least 1 race win this season. Let's be honest, Bahrain, he should have won that race. If it hadn't have been for the engine failure, he would have been a race winner by now. Austria, a little bit naive in his defending, and
That was it.
it just has, his qualifying performances as well haven't been great. You look at Azerbaijan, Monaco, what was the other? Hungary, he crashed in qualifying.
Yeah,
So
in Q1 he bashed into the
so
wall.
yeah, like 3 qualifying sessions he's crashed. In the races, Germany crashed out. It just hasn't been a put together season so far from Charles Leclerc, so I didn't think could go much higher than a 6 on that one, considering some of the other ratings I've given drivers.
Moving on.
Now we're at Red Bull. So, for a team, you've given them a
8. I think they've been pretty darn good. They've pretty much got the best out of the car that they can. They've pretty much maximised performances to the best of their ability. Got caught a little cold on the Mercedes decision in Hungary, but that was more probably due to Mercedes' excellence rather than necessarily due to a massive fault by themselves. Broken the world record for pit stops twice in the season so far, so the pit crew have been absolutely amazing. I just think they've had a really solid season. Not quite exceptional yet, because obviously Pierre Gasly probably brings that down a little bit, and maybe a decision to not be a little bit more ruthless on him, but it is tough to cut him out halfway through. But it's still been, they are certainly the second best team in F1 right now.
Yeah. And I've agreed, an 8 on it as well. Didn't bring a complete car really at the start of the season. It wasn't,
which is always their fault, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're always playing catch up.
It does seem to be, since we've moved over to the hybrid era in Formula 1. They don't seem to hit the ground running like Mercedes do, or like Ferrari have done recently. Up until this season, Ferrari are usually quite quick off the mark with a car that's ready. They didn't, so I didn't think I could go much higher. Well, I couldn't go any higher for Red Bull, because you couldn't be giving them a higher rating than Mercedes.
But although they did get a podium in that first race with Max Verstappen, didn't they?
They did, and that was more down to Ferrari mistakes, which, you know,
has become a common theme of 2019.
But they've been that team that even when their car wasn't able to perform, they've been picking up where others haven't performed. So in Austria, Gasly was picking up on points where Hamilton wasn't able to do as well. In Germany, Max Verstappen got the win. Gasly should have, up until his accident, been taking advantage of Hamilton and Bottas as well. So they have been a team that's been picking up points as well. But 2 race wins for Max Verstappen for them. They've done well. The only thing is they're against a team like Mercedes, so it is harder to score as highly, because that Mercedes team is working brilliantly at the moment. So
certainly is. And moving on to the big man, Max Verstappen.
The informed driver, and you've given him
a 9. I think Max Verstappen is the informed driver on the grid, although Lewis Hamilton is the best driver. Max Verstappen, I think that is now 21 consecutive finishes within the top 5 after that second place at the Hungaroring. I think the only thing stopping me giving him a 10 was he wasn't able to kind of see out that victory in Hungary. I think Max has been absolutely incredible this first half of the season, and we have a season that's kind of reignited and excited the fans thanks to this man. We have to admire his brilliance, but I think only purist F1 fans are now admiring Lewis. I think for the freshen to keep the interest up in F1, this man is so important to it.
It is exactly the case, and I've given him a 9 as well, and that's the way things have to go. He is the informed driver. He's the only driver that is anywhere near Hamilton in terms of performance this season, and the 2 race wins definitely are showing that ability. He is a future world champion, there's no doubt about it. If there is any world where he doesn't win a championship, something's gone wrong, because he has that ability, and he's showing how good that Red Bull car can be. And when you're beating your teammate as comprehensively as he is, you can't fault him.
I think it's a marring of a really good partnership with Honda as well. Honda needed that refresh with Red Bull, and Red Bull needed that engine that was working purely with them to fit the car, and it looks like a match made in heaven so far.
Definitely. So we're on to Pierre Gasly now. So Mike.
4. I've gone harsh on Pierre Gasly. I understand that it's his second full season in F1, but he is so far off the Mercedes and Ferrari that he's competing with the McLarens, the Renaults, the Alphas, and it's not good enough for a top team. He wasn't ready for this move. He's proven he's not ready for this move. I'm not ruling him out in the future. I think it's far too early on young guys like this to rule them out of ever being kind of any sort of driver of note. But as it stands so far, he's had a really torrid first half of the season.
And I've gone for a 6 on that. There's been glimpses of good performances from him, and it is one of the things where he is still relatively new to Formula 1. You can't completely knock him for that. But there have been too many times where he's nowhere near Verstappen. He's been lapped in the last 3 races, is it?
It's the last, well, not the last 2. He wasn't lapped in Hockenheim.
No, he wasn't.
But he was lapped in Austria, and he was lapped.
So 2 out of the 3. 2 out of the last 3 races, he's been lapped by his teammate and has never looked like getting close to him. He's only outscored Verstappen in 1 race this season. So it's just not been a great season for him. So leaving it with a 6, hoping that towards the end of the season that can pick up, because I do like Pierre Gasly as a driver, and I think he's got a lot of ability. He is a naturally fast driver. It just hasn't worked for him in the Red Bull.
So guys, that rounds up part 1 of the series. So we have gone through Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull and give them their ratings. I think, guys, you know, if you agree with our ratings, comment below. If you disagree, if you would give your driver ratings, let us know why below, and what you would actually give them in replacement.
Definitely. Make sure you do subscribe, because we are going to be bringing out lots of content, and make sure you are pressing the bell button so that you get notifications of when our videos go live. Make sure that you go through our predictions for drivers of next season, and stay in touch with the ratings for the rest of this mini-series.
Guys, remember, you F1 fans, keep racing. Hi guys, thanks for watching the video today. Remember, this is your place for all the latest F1 content that you could possibly need. If you like what we do on this channel, don't forget to click here and subscribe to it, and click that bell notification, because it lets you know when all our latest videos are live. Also, maybe check out part 1 of our drivers mini-series, should be up here. Or maybe you want to look at our question of, is Christian Horner a good team principal? I'll leave the link to the video just down here. Anyway guys, see ya!